On this edition of Being Well, we're taking a closer look at the often frustrating process of trying to lose weight. It may not be as simple as taking in less calories. Our guest is Dr. Charlie Schuster from Back to Health Chiropractic, who will be here to address a number of issues that can have an impact on why you gain weight and why you can't seem to lose it. You might be surprised at some of the reasons. We'll also talk about other health issues associated with carrying extra weight. That's all coming up next, so stay right here. Production of Being Well is made possible in part by Sarah Bush Lincoln Health System, supporting healthy lifestyles, eating a heart-healthy diet, staying active, managing stress, and regular checkups are ways of reducing your health risks. Proper health is important to all at Sarah Bush Lincoln Health System. Information available at sarahbush.org. Dr. Ruben Boyajian, located at 904 Medical Park Drive in Effingham, specializing in breast care, surgical oncology, as well as general and laparoscopic surgery. More information online or at 347-2255. Rediscover Paris. Our patient care and investments in medical technology show our ongoing commitment to the communities of East Central Illinois. Paris Community Hospital Family Medical Center. HSHS St. Anthony's Memorial Hospital, delivering healthcare close to home. From advanced surgical techniques and testing to convenient care for your family, HSHS St. Anthony's makes a difference each and every day. St. Anthony's, where you come first. Thanks for joining us for Being Well today. And like a lot of people out there, you're probably interested in losing weight. Maybe you've gained some. What's the best way to take it off to make it last for a lifetime? And here to help answer some of those questions is Dr. Charlie Schuster from Back to Health Chiropractic.
Hi, Lori.
Welcome back to the show. We had you on maybe a year or two ago talking about kind of a whole body approach to just general health. And we're going to talk about a whole body approach to weight loss because you see people all the time that have that issue and want to take care of it.
I do. I appreciate you having me back. When people come into our clinic, the name Back to Health implies that we want to get them back to living a healthy life. Mm-hmm. And so a lot of times people think of going to a chiropractor and getting your back adjusted. Mm-hmm. And we're actually primary care physicians, so the responsibility of the chiropractor, I think Thomas Edison put it probably the most memorable way when he said, "The doctor of the future will prescribe no medications, but instead will interest his patients in the care of the human frame and in diet." So that's what we try to do, and the subject of weight loss does come up quite a bit in our clinic.
So give us some statistics. People who watch this show know that a couple of major things lead to other health problems. That is being overweight and smoking. So being overweight, give us some facts about how that excess of weight is affecting Americans.
Well, it's no secret. All you have to do is go down the road or go out to a department store. And we see that there's such a prevalence of weight issues, and I think so many of us think of the issue of weight as one where we maybe just want to appear good, look good on Facebook, mm-hmm. And in the pictures on Instagram and whatnot, but weight bears with it so many health problems, and the first and foremost we think about is the epidemic of diabetes. Right. And the even bigger epidemic of prediabetes. And mm-hmm. as of 2011, the CDC estimated that 1 out of 3, that's if you're in a room with 3 people, look to your left, look to your right, could be you, mm-hmm. Are at risk for diabetes. And one of the most interesting and simple correlations I think a person really ought to think about is if your abdominal circumference is bigger than your waist, than the bones of your waist, mm-hmm. you're at risk. Yeah. So it's something that I think all of us have to wake up and say those stats certainly point to that, and maybe our circumference does as well.
Yeah, and as people, if they've watched this show, diabetes leads to a whole host of other things, and
it's actually, we do this show on all these different diseases and issues. Diabetes to me is the one that is frightening because it's so prevalent. And again, it's a degenerative disease. It just eventually wears out the body. It's scary.
It does. and of course, Alzheimer's is right there with that. In fact, Alzheimer's has been called type 3 diabetes, and most people don't realize that it's a very similar mechanism, but it's happening with neurons and not other organs of the body. And so not only does diabetes lead to things like weight gain and heart disease and amputations, and it's just a terrible thing that I don't believe we were designed to experience.
Right. So we all have cars, most of us do, and sometimes the check engine light comes on and you just, oh my gosh, something's wrong with my car when the check engine light comes on. Do we have a check engine light for the body?
That's a great analogy, and I use that a lot with patients because if you've had any of these symptoms within the last 30 days, if you've had digestive trouble, if you've had fatigue, trouble sleeping, your blood pressure might be high, fatigue, if you've noticed sore joints, these are symptoms, and for every symptom there's a cause.
Right.
So most of us just kind of plug on, and I have people who will say, well, I just take an ibuprofen and I plug on, and I say, well, are you treating your ibuprofen deficiency? Because if your body's not making enough ibuprofen, that would make sense. But I think what we're doing when we do that is we're just putting a little gasoline additive in the fuel tank and seeing if we can go a little further. But it's not our car. It's the only thing we're ever going to have to house our being.
So you've got to kind of be a little body aware of what's normal. But I think people sometimes forget what's normal. Maybe if you've lived with pain for so long, you forget about what pain-free is like. Or if you have constant headaches or digestive issues, that kind of can become just part of your existence.
It can. And, whenever I give a talk to a group, I like to know if anyone's experienced any of these symptoms in the last 30 days. And if maybe they say only one, and I say, but have you had it more than once in a week? And if you have, you should be concerned. That is your healthy body, by the way. That's a healthy body in one aspect telling you there's a problem. And you have to start somewhere, and glass half full, I suppose. But you're getting the information.
Yeah.
And now you have to figure out what you're going to
do. Your check engine light, we actually do have one on our bodies. We want to get into, because today's show is about taking a whole body approach to weight loss. Let's talk about some of the common myths and misconceptions that we have that have been out there for years about losing weight.
Okay. Well, I'll tell you one way that's actually very effective in the short run at losing weight, and that's just starving yourself. And we've all heard about yo-yo syndrome, I think, and some people that goes in one ear and out the other. But the bottom line is that most people really do think and believe that if we cut calories and fat, that's how we can lose weight. And that's kind of a joke, when you're out and somebody says, well, that's real easy, just don't exercise your biceps as much, But the reality of it is that doesn't work. It may in the short run, but what happens is, your body has all kinds of check engine lights, and hormones become quite an issue, and we'll talk a little more about that, I know, because you can't talk about weight without talking about hormones. And when those calories are cut, our body goes into starvation mode, and our metabolism slows down, and our energy demand is lowered, and we become sluggish. And we stimulate the hunger hormone, ghrelin, and then, we actually are more hungry. So that's not the approach to take for sure. And then you go back to just a little bit of how you were eating before. And wow, your body makes that into fat.
Yes, they do. Well, you notice, like, if you have the flu, influenza, you're sick for a week and you don't eat. Yeah, we all do lose weight. But then when you feel better, the number on the scale goes right back up.
It does.
Yes.
It does. And Dennis Waitley is a motivational speaker I've enjoyed listening to over the years. And he was a team psychologist for 2 Olympic teams. And he always talks about your brain's set point. And that's a way to simplify things without really breaking down what every hormone does, in your body and how they all interact. But the bottom line is, if your brain thinks you weigh 200 pounds and you get down to 150 real quick, you'll get right back to 250. In fact, you'll be sick if you're not getting back to what your brain thinks is a healthy weight.
Really?
So there's a definite component to altering your set point.
Well, and I always say you didn't gain 50 pounds in a week. You're not going to lose it in a month or whatever. It took time to put that weight on. It's going to take time to take it off.
It does. The body likes slow, subtle changes over a period of time.
Yeah.
I think my antenna go up when anybody says, well, I lost 30 pounds in a week. Uh-oh.
Something's not right.
Yeah.
It's the same
Just
thing
one of
with
those.
exercise. You don't go from being someone who can walk around the block to running a marathon in a month. It's a slow progression.
That's exactly right. Track guys know this. It takes about 13 weeks, for your body to even adapt to a good fitness level.
Right.
We need repetition and time, consistency and time. And I always say we've really got to work smarter and not harder when it comes to health.
So one of the big misconceptions is just going on that low-calorie, low-fat diet. That doesn't work. What other misconceptions are out there about losing weight?
Well, that's a very big one, obviously. I think a lot of people think that there's a miracle supplement, and there you go, wanting something easy and quick. And I am a proponent of supplements. I mean, the AMA is a proponent of a multivitamin.
Right.
And some of the vitamins and herbs out there can be very helpful when used correctly. But I think if we're looking for a magic bullet, that's very difficult. Even with today's technology, many foods can be well preserved. There are green drinks. I have one every day. So I'm obviously an advocate of it. But I still don't want that to be my source of real food.
No.
That's the thing you want to watch. So
there really is no magic pill. All right, so you alluded to hormones, and as women, we know hormones cause all sorts of crazy things going on, and we do claim that it's our hormones that make us not be able to lose weight. So there's 3 particular glands in the body that deal with hormones and can have an effect on losing and gaining weight. Why don't you tell us more about it?
Okay, well, the first is so often overlooked is the adrenal gland. The adrenal gland produces cortisol. Cortisol is our stress hormone, and it helps in breaking down fat into sugar, and so we can use it for energy.
Right.
And with the adrenal glands, so often use the analogy: if you've ever flushed the toilet, it didn't flush all the way, and you go to do it right again, it doesn't always work. Well, our adrenal glands are being asked to work all the time.
Right.
And our subconscious mind doesn't know the difference between real and perceived. So if you have a nightmare that a dog is chasing you down the street with big fangs, and you wake up and your heart rate's up, your midbrain thinks it's happened. You've released epinephrine, you've got extra cortisol in your bloodstream. And cortisol is helpful to a point, but excess cortisol it causes our body to store fat, and particularly around the abdomen. So when you see abdominal fat, think adrenals. Don't think that person's just, eating wrong. You can't make that assumption that they're just drinking too many Cokes or having too many McDonald's burgers or whatever.
So that's that correlation when you hear stress is bad for you. It's the stress hormone. If you're releasing too much of that, some of that is converting your fat or sugar to fat. Is that how that works?
It does.
Okay.
Cortisol, that's a specific function of it, is converting fat into energy. And so, too much of a good thing, not so good.
Okay.
We're not meant to be under stress, releasing cortisol all the time, because that actually has an effect on insulin. And without getting into, just how these hormones regulate each other, because you can get into, it really gets complicated. I mean, one has an adverse impact on the other, an effect. But insulin is what carries sugar into the cell, and that's from our pancreas.
Yeah.
That's the big hormone we have to think about. That's the number one hormone involved with diabetes. And insulin will remain high in the bloodstream when we have cortisol being released in abundance. And So you don't when you have extra insulin in the bloodstream, you end up with high blood sugar, and that has an impact on us. And so when we think about the adrenals, cortisol is our thing, and stress is the number one thing that affects those adrenal glands.
Yeah.
So we have to look at adrenal health. Now, before I leave the gland here that we're talking about, which is the adrenal gland, there are several really nice ways to evaluate that adrenal gland. There are many tests you can do in labs, but what I like is a test called Ragland's test, and that's where the patient lies on the table for about 5 minutes, and we take their blood pressure, and then when they go to stand, we take it again, and the upper number, the systolic, should go up by 10.
Okay. In a normal person?
In a normal person.
Okay.
Yeah, because you need more blood flow when you stand, and the adrenals do that. Now, if they don't kick in and do that, and your blood pressure doesn't go up, or maybe only goes up 5 millimeters of mercury, then you have fatigued adrenal gland.
Okay.
And that could be a case where you're not even able to secrete cortisol any longer in response to stress.
Okay.
And so that's even worse because you're not going to get the energy that you need from your sugars.
So if you have that, how do you fix it?
Well, and there's a case where, iodine's a very vital mineral for the adrenals. The B vitamins are extremely important. And adrenal gland from bovine or pig has been a very popular way that's been very useful in helping get that adrenal gland functioning. But in addition to that, I think that's important to get the nutrients. Managing stress, is very important, and that's where changing some of your daily habits become important. You really can't lose weight without having some component of a stress management plan in place. So you asked about a couple other glands. The pancreas, obviously, we already touched on, because you can't hardly talk about the adrenals and cortisol without mentioning insulin. But one other hormone that's really important to think about in the pancreas is glucagon. Glucagon is our friend. It's very important because it assists the pancreas in letting the brain know that we're full. It lets the brain know that we're not hungry, and it assists as well with managing the amount of blood sugar that we have. So very important hormone as well. So the pancreas should be functioning, and pancreatic enzymes can be very helpful. But also, how we eat is going to come in. I know we're going to talk about that, I have a feeling. So
wait, the last gland was the thyroid, and you hear that seems to happen more in women. They've got hyperthyroid or hypothyroid. What does the thyroid have to do with weight loss, weight gain?
Well, the thyroid is what's going to regulate the speed at which we convert fat into energy, because it all really boils down to energy, your body's energy demand and what drives it. And then when we convert that, that's the thyroid is really concerned about your body's temperature. It's your temperature regulator.
Okay.
And that if you think about any kind of a chemical reaction, the hotter it is, the faster the reaction will occur. And when we're at 98.6 degrees, the reactions in our cells occur most efficiently and at their proper rates. And so when the thyroid is sluggish, we have all kinds of issues. Slow metabolism is the most obvious one, but I think most of us have looked it up or heard from somebody. But dry hair, dry skin. We notice that people who have thyroid problems can even have, obviously losing weight is the most obvious thing, but fatigue, and so having a properly functioning thyroid has to be in place as well, because obviously they all work together.
Yes, they do. All right, so let's get down to some of the nitty-gritty, because people want to know, what should I eat and drink? It is, you've got to, James Donasso was on our show a couple weeks ago, and he said, when you're exercising, you have to put good food into your body to, help the body work better. So What should we be eating?
You know, and this is, I use this sort of as a mantra, and I can't speak for Jim, but I imagine he would agree with me on this. You know, dead food promotes death and live food promotes life.
Okay.
And if you think of it that way, live food teeming with enzymes and nutrients protect our cells. And we've known for a long time, everybody says, well, yeah, fruits and vegetables, you know. But it's funny, as much as we all would know that we're supposed to eat more fruits and vegetables, when you tell somebody you need to try to eliminate sugar, okay,
Oh yes, that's a big one.
and grains, and you say, by the way, there's sugar in milk, and they say, what do you, everybody asks, the next question out of their mouth is, what do you eat? Well, there's a lot. There's just a ton of stuff you can eat. But instead of focusing on what we can't eat,
focus on what you can.
yeah.
You can.
So that's where the component of planning really comes into place a little bit, because, you know, it's not hard to prepare salad and broccoli and cauliflower and have it just rinsed, washed, ready to eat and in bags, you know, and so it's on the go. But we really need to avoid hydrogenated foods. They contain free radicals. Everybody talks about free radicals, and they destroy proteins and DNA, and that is very hard on our cells, and so we need that. It's also the best form of energy for our body. It allows the pancreas to be able to function very efficiently. We don't have high levels of insulin being thrown at our cell walls, and our cell walls eventually, you know, become immune to insulin, and the problem being, you know, insulin resistance, diabetes. So what we need is more fruits and vegetables. There's no doubt about it. And, you know, I have to say one other thing there, because water is ultimately the most, you talk about antioxidants. Well, water is one of the best antioxidants you can possibly put in your body. It's protective for our cells. All of our cells need it to function correctly. And so many people drink tap water. And the problem with that is when it's tested, and you can go on, I always tell people, you know, Google's good, but PubMed is where you really want to go for peer-reviewed articles that give you the straight stuff with no product to sell. And if you start to look around, you start seeing that we have higher levels of antibiotics.
That are coming from people disposing of medications. It's ending up in our groundwater.
Even chemotherapy, drugs, painkillers, tranquilizers, these things are all showing up in the water. And it's best to have a clean water filter. So that's very important. And about half your weight in ounces of water a day is very important.
Well, I go back to our show with our urologist. He said, drink the water. It keeps everything cleaned out and flushed out.
I'll tell you, if I could create a really awesome machine, it would be you stand up on a scale, and then it makes a little plastic container with no PCBs in it. Got to throw that in there. Those are toxic. But it would be whatever that size container is. Would be half your weight in ounces, because so many people think 8 glasses of water, but then that becomes, well, but one of those could be tea, and then one could be, you know, and then you got caffeine in it, which affects your adrenal glands.
It does.
In a negative way, and it's also takes water out of your body, so you know you drink more because you had it.
You're taking more out, put more in,
So that's
so eat more fresh fruits and vegetables, things that are not. I mean, most of us can't get through life without eating stuff that comes out of a box, but try and eat stuff that doesn't come in a box, meaning it's unprocessed.
Yes, and protein, by the way.
Protein. You got to have some of everything, right?
Absolutely. Protein is how you make neurotransmitters. One of the key neurotransmitters is serotonin. It's the happy hormone.
It's a happy hormone.
It regulates your digestive tract. If you want to have stuff in you know, for a shorter period of time, and you want to have feelings of satiety and be full, you've got to have proper levels of serotonin. And if you're not sleeping, you can't produce good serotonin, by the way.
Okay,
And
so
you need protein.
We need protein. So we're running really short on time. We got to have some exercise. Got to have the physical activity, fitness, exercise as kind of.
We've got to throw that in there. Yep, and I can tell you in a hurry there that, you know, if we don't build muscle mass, then we don't have centers for you know, burning calories, And all our metabolism occurs in a muscle cell. So
it's all like,
important.
it's kind of like a flow chart, if this, then that, because to increase your metabolism, you need more muscle mass. You get more muscle mass by exercising, and you got to have the right fuel to fuel those muscles.
You
So
do.
We're just an engine, really. We're a little factory where one thing affects the other. Last thing, pain, dealing with pain. That becomes an issue for people who, if they have chronic pain, it's hard for them to exercise, and then all these other things. So get the pain under control.
Absolutely. Yeah, because cortisol is released when you're under stress, and if you're not sleeping well, we all know that you're going to put more weight on as well. You produce too much cortisol, your adrenals become fatigued. This all is a result of pain.
Yeah.
So it is very important. Exercise is movement, and when you have proper mobility, exercise becomes much easier. So a good weight loss program would also address joints that aren't moving correctly, or painful joints particularly.
All right, so just give us one last little thing about tips for making this a lifestyle and not a temporary fix.
Well, I think the biggest thing I would say is that if you have to resort to tracking and counting calories, that typically isn't going to be something that just gels with your everyday life. And if you, even if you look at a plate and you decide you can only have half as much as your hand of this or that color or so much of that, those things can be helpful, but I think you have to listen to your body, but understand that your body needs it needs some training, and during that training it isn't always as fun as it could be. But it shouldn't be swimming upstream. It should just be, if you're well and you're used to and you've adapted your set point, and that's why keeping your weight down for a period of time is so important. We like a year at a weight, so that's the best weight for you. And when it doesn't work out, so often we just haven't given it enough time. And you should almost feel sick when you eat wrong if you're used to eating right.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Dr. Schuster, thanks so much for coming back on the show and giving us some things to think about when it comes to a whole body approach to weight loss and weight gain.
Thanks for having me back, Lori.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Production of Being Well is made possible in part by Sarah Bush Lincoln Health System, supporting healthy lifestyles, eating a heart-healthy diet, staying active, managing stress, and regular checkups are ways of reducing your health risks. Proper health is important to all at Sarah Bush Lincoln Health System. Information available at sarahbush.org. Dr. Ruben Boyajian, located at 904 Medical Park Drive in Effingham, specializing in breast care, surgical oncology, as well as general and laparoscopic surgery. More information online or at 347-2255. Rediscover Paris. Our patient care and investments in medical technology show our ongoing commitment to the communities of East Central Illinois. Paris Community Hospital Family Medical Center. HSHS St. Anthony's Memorial Hospital, delivering healthcare close to home. From advanced surgical techniques and testing to convenient care for your family, HSHS St. Anthony's makes a difference each and every day. St. Anthony's, where you come first.